Hello, hello. We are so excited to have with us today Susan Balan. Susan is a domestic violence survivor, abuse recovery mentor, and passionate advocate who has transformed the most terrifying and painful experience of her life into a powerful gift to mentor and inspire women to live free, fulfilled, and unapologetically. Yay! Welcome, Susan.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I really am. And to share all of this information. We all, women, ladies, we need to get unapologetic about and live perfectly imperfect as we are.
Love it. Perfectly imperfect. I love that. That should be a tattoo on our forearm.
Yeah. I'm perfectly imperfect.
Right. So, Susan, tell me, what does it mean to be unapologetically us?
It means that we the individual embrace all of our flaws. We know that we're flawed, we know that we're not perfect. There's too much emphasis on being perfect, the perfect body, the perfect attitude, the perfect smile, be happy every day, doing all of this stuff. And it's knowing that on some days you don't feel that happiness, you don't feel that you have a down day. It's knowing that it's okay to have a different figure than other people. But more importantly, it's about knowing that you can break through some of the what I like to call social scripts that you have been given as a child. We get
Mm.
really stuck in those. So we learn certain things. And I'm sure you've heard the expression that they're the black sheep of the family. Well, I was the black sheep.
Twinsies.
We are generally the ones who are questioning these standards and the way we live. We're the ones who are questioning it. So people look at us and go, "You can't do that. You can't do that. This is the way you grow up. You get married. You have children. You da 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 da." And a lot of us find it very difficult to break out of those molds, those casts that we've been given. And when we do attempt to break out, we get labeled black sheep or selfish or any of those things. And then we feel guilt and shame because we're doing something differently. We want to go and live our life unapologetically. We want to do something different. So I'll give you an example. When I was growing up, my mother was very much one of those women where her children were simply there to be a reflection of her,
Mm,
right?
right.
So she had certain standards, certain things that the way we dressed and what we did. And if we tried to maneuver away from that, that was a big deal. Well, when I was 23, my mother is Italian. My family is a big Italian family. I was not married. Like it was the worst news ever. And I remember all the pressure that was put on me to get married. What's wrong with him? Get married, have babies, do this thing. I didn't want children. I didn't really want to get married. But everyone basically put me down for it. And there was some emotional and verbal abuse around that. I didn't know what I was thinking. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know myself. So I got married
Oh,
because I wanted to belong in this group called my family. I wanted to do what was expected of me. I
right.
wasn't living my unapologetic life. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be a stewardess or flight attendant, as they're called now. I wanted to go and live with the gorillas and be like Diane Fossey. Like I had all kinds of spinning ideas in my head. This whole being married and having a white picket fence and cookie bakey, fluffy, foldy stuff was not for me. But
Right.
breaking out of that is so difficult, especially for women, because we are raised under the motto of be a good girl. Don't rock the boat. Be a good girl.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what happened? How did you you broke free from that? And did you embrace different character traits? Was that something consciously that you created intentionally? You decided to break free from that, or what was the catalyst that
Well,
put you in
when
that?
I had I've been married a few times, and I've had 4 abusive relationships. And the last one, he attempted to kill me. There was a strangulation, there was an attempted murder, and so on like that. And when I left that relationship, when I ran for my life, I lived in a my friend's furnace room. She was the only one who would take me in. She put one of those fold away cots down so I could stay there and be safe. Bless her heart, she did that for me.
Right.
And while I was going through that, I thought to myself, this little earworm came in my head and it said, Susan, who's the common denominator in all your relationships?
Right.
It's me. And I recognized as I went through my healing, I was the common denominator, and I kept getting into these bad relationships because I was trying to live what I call my should life, the should life my family wanted for me that I didn't want.
Oh,
This
wow.
was not authentically me. This was not what I wanted. I wasn't that woman. I wasn't that woman. And it was when I recognized that, and don't get me wrong, I love my 2 daughters and all of that kind of stuff. But at the time when I embraced that and I realized I have to break out of this, I have to start standing up and saying, no, I don't want to get remarried. No, I don't need a man in my life. No, I'm happy on my own. No, these, all of these things. When I started to embrace that,
Right.
and if people would put me down for it, I started to get an attitude of, that's not about me, that's about you, because I'm good. So it seems that maybe life isn't quite working for you. And I started to learn about myself. I started to experiment with things and get curious about things and go and try new things and volunteer in different circumstances. I went back to university and got a degree.
Right.
I was the first person in my family to graduate from university. So and that was something that wasn't really looked upon as something you wanted to do. You wanted to get married and have babies and retire and die. I mean, basically that was, the the life goal. So it's that recognizing, are you doing what you want to do? Are you living and doing what you want to do? Are you doing things that people expect you to do? Are you living a should life because it makes others happy? Or are you living the life you want to make you happy? That's the difference.
Right.
That's
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's such a powerful story. Such a powerful story. I am sure a lot of women can relate to that. I mean, if we made it up to be close to 50, we have had some hard moments for sure. I can relate.
well, when you look even now, articles, memes, women still have to defend themselves if they don't want to have children.
Yes, I
Correct?
know.
It's
I know.
like this big deal.
Yes.
We don't question women who want children. It's just kind of
Right.
the norm. It's the social script that you do that. But as soon as a woman says, well, I don't want children, everybody goes, what? How could you not want children? There's that duality in our society, and the one makes us uncomfortable because we're standing up in a different powerful way and saying, no, this is what I want to do with my life. And not everyone accepts that. So
Yes.
for me, being unapologetic is really important, especially if you are dating and looking at a new relationship. Be true to who you are.
Right. How would that look like in this particular area of dating, for example? How would it look like being trying to mold ourselves into a pretzel to fit the cultural norms and not do that? Or in other words, what are the character traits of an unapologetical woman? Did I say it right? Unapologetic
Unapologetic woman. There you go.
woman. Thank you. That's a difficult word.
Oh, no, I admire anybody who speaks the second language.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, what are the characteristics? The
Yes.
characteristics are knowing and understanding the standards that you have for a relationship, not the boundaries, not all of that, but the
Um,
standards that you have for a relationship. And it's an area that a lot of people don't talk about, but and I'm not talking about that he has to be 6'2", tall, dark, and handsome. I'm talking about what are the standards. So if you meet someone, and I have women who have come to me and done this. You meet someone, the woman is growing up and saying, I don't want children. They meet somebody, they think he's, the cat's meow, and they want to take it further. And he's like, oh, I want a whole baseball team of children. And what does she do? Oh, yeah, well, I could get into that. So what's the problem there? She's going to be bitter, resentful, and miserable over time, because that core value that you have of not wanting to have children or have children doesn't go away when the
right.
children come.
You're
So
so
that,
right.
as a matter of fact, it can make things very, very awful for everyone. So it's standing in that truth and honoring your power to say, oh, you want children? Well, it was really nice to meet you. Maybe we could be friends or something. And standing in that power and moving away from that person. They're not your person. They don't have the same standards as you for what you want. So it's really getting to those standards of someone who loves to travel, or someone who dreams about retiring at the age of 50, and you do too, and traveling the world. Those are the standards I'm talking about. Someone who is not necessarily, but financially responsible,
Right.
and you're financially responsible. Or someone who says to you, well, when we get married or we move in together, we'll just put all the money in a joint bank account and share it. That's not my standard. My account stays there, and we'll have our own joint account. It's knowing those standards for your relationship. Much different than boundaries, because when you know your standards and you're telling someone those standards and they say, oh, well, that's not for me, or I would never do things that way, then you know where you stand and you get to walk away. So
Right.
that's what you need to know and get down to.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because I have worked with women that got married to men. The women didn't want to have kids, or was like, not, yeah, didn't want to have kids. But she married the guy. The guy wanted to have kids. So he convinced her that to have kids. And the argument was he was going to take care of the kids. He was going to be the primary caregiver. She could still go and do her, she's into sports, do her triathlons, her marathons, whatever. And that takes a lot of time. And she was also a professional, so she has a job, a high responsibility job. Well, 5 years later, 2 kids later, now he's having a hard time, and he's really, really making her life miserable, aka he's moody, he's mistreating her, he's upset with her, he snaps at her, and all because now he wants her to change, when she, from the beginning, she agreed to that situation under the plan that he had, that yes, we are going to have kids, and you still will be able to do to follow your bliss, to do your passion. So as you said, I agree with that, so wholeheartedly. We cannot change our core standards, like you call them, or values for anybody, because sooner or later it's going to bite us in the tush.
Oh yeah. And that's the sad part. There's many women who get into marriages, they're not happy, but they feel they have to stay because I've had women who have said to me, well, no one in my family ever got divorced.
Right.
Well, there's a first time for everything. And you only have one life. This is my passion, is recognizing that we only have this one life. This is not a dress rehearsal. We don't get to go through this and say, hey, I'm going to try that and I'm going to try that and that didn't work. And then I get to reboot back to the beginning and get the perfect spouse and all that. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your life. And if you are passionate about something, or you have certain values or standards or things you want to do or not do,
Right.
and you meet someone, suddenly going, oh, I can make that work, or that. No, 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 no.
No.
It's the same when you meet a guy and you say, oh, well, once we get married, he'll change. No, 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 no,
Right.
no. I
Right.
meet so many women who say that once we get married, he'll change.
I know. I
Usually for the worse, but yeah, he'll change.
Yes, everything gets amplified, the good and the bad. Yes, so
Yes.
that's so, so true. Such an important conversation that we are having, that I don't believe a lot of women are brave enough to have this kind of conversation, because as you said at the beginning, we are brought up to be good girls, and this feels like, there is something wrong with us, but it's actually honoring who we are. And
Yeah. Isn't that sad, though, that a woman or a young girl has, if they want to do something different than the family norm or the society norm or whatever they've been brought up to believe is what they're supposed to do in life, that we have to feel that there's something wrong with us for wanting to do it differently. I think that's so sad, because I was made to feel that way.
mm,
That there was something definitely wrong with me, that I wanted to kind of go on adventures and live a big bold life. I wanted to do all of that. And I can remember my sister saying to me one time, she had 3 screaming kids all running around the house, and I was telling her that I didn't want to get married and I didn't want to have kids, and she looked at me and she said, "Susan, what is wrong with you?" At the time, I felt such guilt and shame. I was horrified. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me
right,
for not wanting all of this stuff. I'm here to tell you there's nothing wrong with you. Explore, be curious, be adventurous, find out who you really are, and then share that. You can still, when you get into a healthy relationship, to me, there are 3 relationships. There's
oh,
3 lives. There's your life, there's his life,
right,
your partner's life, and then there's your co-created life together that kind of comes in the Venn diagram in the middle. But
right,
you never give up on what you believe in and what your life is all about, and neither should your partner.
right.
You should be learning and growing from each other, not taking away from or diminishing or trying to change something. If I meet someone, I met someone when I did start dating again, and I remember thinking to myself, can I handle this? Because he was a martial arts expert kind of dude. I can't even remember which martial art it was. But I remember one day he had stayed, yeah, I know, he had stayed overnight, and I woke up in the morning to get a coffee, and out in my backyard, he was doing all of this funny stuff in the backyard, the neighbors and stuff. And I'm like, can I handle this? Is this what I want to wake up to? And I didn't want to.
Mm,
And we have to be that brutally honest. We have to look at it and say, I can't change him. This is his love. This is what he loves to do. Not for me. And I really don't want somebody carrying on at dawn in the backyard doing all of that. So,
right.
it's that brutal honesty with ourselves.
It is a brutal honesty. And also, I believe that it takes a radical faith and radical responsibility for our lives, and understanding that our decisions come with everything is a trade-off in life. So whatever we decide to do is going to have the consequences are going to be good and they're going to be bad too. And it's what do we want to deal with? I believe at the end of the day it's about that. I learned at a very young age that at the end of the day, when I go to bed at night, I go to bed with my mind. That's the only thing that goes to bed with me. So what is going to give me so much joy that it will buffer the pain, or the, we could use the word pain, the pain of saying no to other things, because everything has everything is a trade-off. Being unapologetically, like you said, it takes a lot of courage, because it will manifest. The example that you are giving about not having kids, I know it really well firsthand, because that's my situation. I chose to not have kids, and I have two sisters. I am the middle one, and they do have kids. And I can see how the dynamics of my mom with the three of us, how she is spending her resources goes to them way more than to me, way more. And I have to be at peace with it, because she has her grandchildren with them. So, I chose to not do that. And do I regret it? No. Now, do I have to live with, reminding myself here and now, every now and then, okay, you didn't give her a grandchild, so suck it up, Buttercup. You see what I am, but I also would like you to talk a little bit about, because I love what you said about not letting these things, these hard decisions we make sometimes, to be true to ourselves. That it could be walk away from a relationship that is abusive, like I had to, like you had to. How sometimes we let these decisions to define us, or those traumas to define us, and then we when we walk away from traumatic situations, or from hard decisions that go against what the culture is telling us to do, we could we could let those decisions to give us, like the red letter,
Yeah.
and how I would like you to express your voice in this subject, because I know you are big on this, on how not to let our past to define us.
That's a very good question, because we have 4 areas of our life where we learn how we're supposed to behave and how we're supposed to interact. And that's our culture, our family, society, and our religion, if you're involved in a religion, spirituality,
Yeah.
those 4 areas. When we start to grow up and we start to question any of that, we start to think, oh, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to be involved in that. It's not that we're doing anything wrong. I assure you, whoever is listening, you are not doing anything wrong. You're not a bad girl. You're not rocking the boat just to get attention, or any of those cruel things. You're not being selfish. What you're doing is you're being curious about what you want to do with your life. Yeah, this was cool. I grew up in this family and we had these traditions at Christmas, or we did this thing, or my mom and dad had lots of sisters and brothers, and we spent every Sunday having big family dinners, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to break away. What you're doing is you're just being curious to find out who you are and what you like. Those traditions are wonderful. Those things that happened are wonderful. But what happens is, sadly, those in the family, or those in the church, or those in society who are going along and doing the norm, doing what's supposed to be, they
Yes.
will immediately start to feed you guilt and shame,
Mm.
right? So, for example, I have met women who have chosen not to have children, and their sisters or brothers or aunts or uncles or friends will say to them, how can you do that to mom? Not
Right.
bring her grandchildren. So what is that? That's guilt and shame.
Right.
Big guilt and shame.
I-
That's how they get to you, because then you start to go, oh, look, I'm being a bad girl. What am I doing? They're right. I can just, do what's expected of me. I want to say to you, when you find yourself exploring and being curious about an alternative way of living that feels more connected to you, more authentic to you, keep exploring. When they come with the guilt and shame, sit back, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, I'm in the process of looking for me, and I'm good with this.
Right.
And just let it flow away. You're just in the process of looking for yourself. That's all you're doing. You're not doing anything good or bad. You're just in the process, and flow with that and let that guilt and shame go away. Because as you curate yourself and you get more and more authentic and you get more and more unapologetic and you realize the standards and the values that you want to live by, they can't even get the guilt and shame on you after a while. It becomes like, whatever, because you've built what you want to build. You got curious, you went on adventures, you decided what you wanted, you're truly happy, you're connected with yourself, you feel vibrant and big and bold, and you're okay. When somebody tries to guilt and shame you, it no longer affects you.
Right.
But in the beginning, just breathe through it and just, I'm in the process of finding myself.
Wow.
Just alleviate all of that guilt and shame, because that's technically what you're doing. You're
Right.
just in that process of finding yourself. I was criticized for being a hippie and a tree hugger and an animal lover and, an environmentalist and all of that stuff. I had my sisters pull my hair and say, when are you going to grow up and cut your hair? And, all of that kind of stuff. And when
Right.
I began to be unapologetic and authentic, I let this sucker grow and I just hug as many trees as I can find. And I embrace all of that. And if somebody makes fun of me, it's okay. It's okay. Because I'm happy doing that. I'm good with me.
I love that. I love that, Susan. I love it. And another thing, another facet of that I can see also, I'm curious to see what you think about it, is that when we are living our truth, when we are being unapologetically ourselves, and other people are shaming us, are making us guilty, I also remind myself that there is a possibility that we are doing what they were never brave enough to do.
You are so spot on with that. Really, the people who are criticizing you, when you get to a place where you are fully connected with yourself and you're doing what you want to do, you will also obviously attract people to you that fit your vibe. You will no longer have to set boundaries because you all understand each other. And it's not, boundaries are for unhealthy relationships, not for healthy relationships. Just want to clear that up.
Oh, that's
And once you're there and you have, your people around you, you're all in sync, you look at others differently when they do come at you. And you start to realize that they sadly are not curious about what else they could do with their life. That's the big thing. They're going along to get along and to do what is expected of them, instead of being curious to say, well, if I went down this path with my life, what would my life look like?
right.
And that's the difference between the two. But that takes courage to take another path when your family or your society or whatever it is expects you to go down that path.
Right.
And you say, well, you know what? I'm going to go walk down there for a little while and see what's there. I'm really curious what is out there for me. That takes a lot of bravery.
It does. It does. What is coming up for me so strongly right now is this idea of, oh, well, Susan, but I don't know anybody. Everybody that I am, my friends, my family, everybody's following this path, and I feel so alone in this, with my desires of being fulfilling my needs, of being unapologetically myself. And then I said, well, there are always groups. Like I am sure you in your coaching practice, or you have a group, or maybe they can hire you privately. I have a group coaching. I also coach privately. There are different groups that you can join with people that are in the same path, so that you can start to see in real life and model how this looks like, how to do it, what are the possible dangers along the road. So, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we are never alone. There is always
Mm.
other people that can support us in our path to be truly ourselves.
one of the assignments that I give to my clients, because when I meet women and I say to them, well, what do you like to do? You know, what brings you joy? What makes you smile? Zero. There's usually not very much, right? If you ask a woman, well, what don't you like? She'll give you a whole list of things that she doesn't like. But one
Right.
of the assignments that I give to everyone is, two things. Go and volunteer somewhere where you've never been involved with a different group of people.
Right.
Because a lot of times we stay in our bubble, the expectations, the societal norms that we grew up with, we stay in that bubble. Break out of it, do something different. Go and work with a certain group of people, go and volunteer and read books to the elderly, whatever it is. Just get yourself out into a new group of people. And the second thing that I assign is to find a class. It can be free or it can be a small fee, whatever you can afford, that is so out of your comfort zone to learn to do something
Right.
that also gets you curious, that gets you're afraid. You think, oh, I'm going to make an idiot of myself. I've never danced tap before, or whatever it is. But I want you to go and do something that you've never experienced before and sign up for that class, 4 weeks of it, 6 weeks of it, or whatever, and dedicate yourself to doing it, because that also breaks you out of that expectation and norm. And you start to see yourself as somebody much more vibrant, because now you've done this, you've gone over there and you've done that. Then you've
Right.
gone over there and you're talking to this group of people who are completely different, and so on and so forth. And you start to see what's out there. And I recommend that to everyone. There's 2 ways to do it: volunteer or go and take a class. When I first started exploring myself, I went and took a watercolor class. Thought
Oh
you're
my
going to like
God,
this.
that's hard to do. That's very hard to do.
I know, and I am not artistic at all, and I chose the hardest of all.
Oh
But
my
not
God.
only that, brace yourself. It
What?
was human nudes. It was human
Ah!
nudes.
Ah, that adds a level of motivation to go to the classes if the models are men and with
Yes, there was a couple of men. It was so, like, I think I was red faced the whole
yes,
time.
I
I kept,
know.
trying to draw with my charcoal. But what I'm saying is, just go and do something, and you
Right.
find out you're successful at it, even if it's just doing the 6 weeks of the program or whatever. You did it. So I can say to me, oh yeah, I drew nudes. Hasn't everybody?
I love it. I love it. I love that. Yes, that action step. It's so interesting and it has so many different benefits. So many different benefits. Sometimes when we want to change something, I believe there are two ways to do it. One way is to go straight to the tiger and try to domesticate the tiger. And another way is to go and cook a nice steak and bring the steak to the tiger. And so go around it. I think, sometimes our dreams are so big, they seem to be so big, so impossible, that but doing something different can open up the door. Like you said, you went painting, going painting, taking a class, going volunteering, doing something different may open the door to reach the goal. Even when it's not a straight path, it will get you there. I don't know if I made sense. I feel
No,
like I.
you made perfect sense, because when we're finding ourselves, we don't know ourselves. So how do you know what you want to do if you don't go and do something?
Mm,
I When I started volunteering and I started doing different things, and I really didn't have any guidance to do that, I just wanted to go exploring. I discovered that I really liked charity work, and I ended up being a big big fundraiser with charity work. But I had never thought of that. It was not at all in my thoughts to go and work at a charity.
right. And
Now,
look what you discover. It's huge.
yeah, so
You're,
I'm not. So
mhm,
you might go to walk dogs at the local shelter and decide that you want to work at the shelter, or you want to do something with animals. This is the thing. You don't know.
right.
You know what you have been brought up and taught to believe is is what is going to happen in your life. And a
Right.
lot of that is good information. I'm not saying it's all bad information. It's good information.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there is some of that stuff that we just don't want to inherit. We don't want to do what our families or society are requesting of us to do.
Right.
But in order to really know what you want to do, you need to get out there and do some stuff that your family doesn't do and you've never done before. You need to get curious, a little adventurous. Yes, it was really hard. I mean, the first time that I went and we had to sketch these nude guys before we painted them, and watercolors are horrible, and I can't draw, and they had feet and parts and stuff. I don't know. It was really stupid, but I did it. I mean, my heart was racing. My little pencil, my was so sweaty, it was falling out of my hand, and it was.
You were alive.
But I was also alive. It was like, wow, I'm doing this thing. Right?
Right.
I'm not going to show it to anyone ever, but
Who knows?
all I'm saying is you will find out when you go somewhere, and whatever it is, it's not forever. When I went to the watercolor class, I only had to commit for 6 weeks. It's
Right.
not forever. It's not something you have to become an expert in. It's just something you're going to be curious about for a limited time while you explore who you are. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
I think that's the right mindset, what you just said, because that squashes the mindset of I have to get it right. If I am not the next Picasso, because we do have that as women. We want to do everything perfect. If we don't think we can do it perfectly or get it right, we wouldn't even try. And so
And
I
that's
love your
sad.
mindset. Yes. It's not only sad, it's very constrictive. It keeps us small. It keeps us very, I don't know,
Small is good.
yeah, small. Yeah.
And it's really honestly time to break free and be big and bold and just go out there and explore what's out there. And
Right.
with the attitude of, I don't have to be perfect.
Right.
None of this has to be perfect. I am not perfect. I am perfectly imperfect, and I have flaws. I cannot draw to save my life. I know this, but I'm going to do this anyway.
Right.
I'm going to go and see, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I do know how to draw and I just need someone to show me how. Going in with a sense of, I'm doing this for fun. I'm committing for 6 weeks to see what happens with a big smile on your face is different than committing to a 4-year program to suddenly become a vet when you don't even know if that's what you want to be.
Right.
Right?
Big difference. Big difference.
Go
I
and
love
have some fun.
I love it, love it, love it. Yes. Yes. Cry. There is anything else you would like to share with our audience before we go our ways apart?
Yes. Ladies, I want to tell you that you have so much potential and so much joy within you, and you can do it your way. Imperfectly, perfect, all the way. You have flaws. We all have them. Embrace them, love them, blow them a kiss at night when you go to sleep. That's what I want you to take away from this.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And also, you have a gift for our audience. Would you mind to share what that is?
Yes, it's a little ebook that's going to help you look inside at some of your wounded self, because there is a lot that we carry with us. Sometimes we're not too sure why we feel afraid of something, or why something is bothering us, or why we suddenly feel guilty or shame because we want to do something. And that's part of the wounding. So it can be small wounds, big wounds, but it's an ebook that will help you explore some of that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The link is in the email I sent you and on the description box of this video. Thank you, Susan. It has been such a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for saying yes to the Love Summit.
Thank you for having me. This is a real joy. Thank you.